So what we're looking at today is the section of the race which takes you from the 13k mark of the half marathon and the 48k mark of the ultramarathon down past Cecilia Forest and that very bendy section on Rhodes Drive towards Kirstenbosch Gates. Now this is an important section of the race because there are a couple of traps or temptations that you can easily fall into. Not least of all for the reason that you have just done the most difficult part of your respective race. So the ultramarathon runners have just done Constantia Nek and then have this nice long descent down towards Cecilia Forest, whereas the half marathon runners have just summited Southern Cross Drive and then get the same thing. And the big temptation here is that you push too fast on those early downhills, and what that does is it leaves your legs a little bit exposed for the uphills which come later, because it is quite an undulating section past Kirstenbosch. The other problem is the camber, which I'll show you now in a video clip that I filmed just to talk you through some of the specific challenges that make this an important section. Now on the straight descent from the top of Southern Cross Drive heading down towards Cecilia Forest. In both races there are 8 k's to go. Use this descent to recover and to prepare for the twists towards Kirstenbosch. If you're in the mood for counting, there are 9 bends in this road and they take you to the top gate with 5.5 k to go. As you go around the second bend here, you'll pass the 14 and 49 k marks. The challenging aspects of this section are the gentle undulations and the camber. This camber bothers a lot of people, but unfortunately there's not really too much you can do about it. 2 tips are to try to stay in the middle of the road if you can, and also run the tangents, because that way you cut some of the camber out. Just bear in mind that you will be channeled to one side of the road here. Some runners even go off-road into the gravel on the side of the road, which you can do, but just remember to obey the marshals at all times. It's not too bad and it's relatively short. The worst is over as you pass what used to be Cecilia Forest and is now the Cecilia Dust Bowl. In terms of climbing, the road winds its way up for a few hundred meters and then gradually down again. It's not too tough, but with close to 50 or 14 k's in the legs, it can be challenging. But by the time you get to this point in the race on the 6th bend, it's relatively flat and fairly quick again. On the whole, this is actually a really pleasant part of the race. It's accessible to spectators and so it's extremely well supported. The quality of the road is excellent, it's a gradual descent, and it's usually fairly cool thanks to the tree cover. Just note that in terms of refreshments, there's a station at the 14k mark, which is at the bottom of that straight descent from Southern Cross where this clip began, and the next station is at Top Gate 1.5k later. You've just passed the 15 and the 50k markers around bends 8 and 9, and now you make that short climb up towards Top Gate. Keep those energy levels up and look forward to the last 5k's. Usually outside Top Gate, they have a mist shower on the left-hand side if you feel the need to cool off. It's also a fabulously supported section, and so just enjoy the energy of the crowd. You'll soon veer off to the right, and then you drop down towards Bottom Gate. Now, I somewhat jokingly referred to this section as the mine shaft earlier, but it is super steep here, and on tired legs, regardless of which race you're in, it's a real pounding section for about 1 kilometer. The first straight, which you're on now, is steep enough, but it's when you turn left at the bottom that you really encounter a steep drop-off and your quads will start singing to you. Once again, remember the technique here should be to drop your hips lower to control your speed, rather than your instinctive tendency, which is to lean backwards and then land too much on the heel, because this produces much higher impacts and really hammers your quads. It might also be worthwhile for those of you who feel that your muscles are on the verge of cramping to just anticipate this section and stretch before you get here. Perhaps when you were at Top Gate a few hundred meters back, you need to stop and just spend 30 to 60 seconds gently stretching those muscles that feel susceptible to cramp. This will help to prevent the cramp once you're running on these steep descents and allow you to make your way more comfortably to the bottom gate. Note that this is where they've typically had the race photographers in the past, so if you fancy a pic of yourself running, then take some time, prepare yourself and put on your best face at the bottom here. You have only a shade over 4k's left and another 1 to 1.5 kilometers of gradual descending before you take the left onto Union Avenue. So that's the bends in the mine shaft, which as you can see are fairly important, not least of all because that's where you get your photo taken, so you have to be aware of that at least. As I said though, that's a really amazing section of the route, and it's by the time you get to that steep descent from the top to the bottom gate of Kirstenbosch that you know what kind of a last 4 or 5k's you've got, because you're either at that stage surviving, hopefully not, or you're thriving, and that's when you're coming through because you've paced yourself and you've trained right and you should be finishing hopefully strongly. I'll talk to you about the finish straight next time, which takes you from the turn-off of Rhodes Drive onto the M3 and up towards the University of Cape Town. Challenging section, but the home straight and therefore the finish line is in sight. So we'll talk about that next time.